Welcome back to Eye on Iowa. My name is Sarah Mueller. I'm a reporter here with Forbes, and I am here today with Perry Johnson, GOP candidate, for a second time, but this time we are not in a studio format. We are right outside the Trump event, and I have to ask Perry, why are we here?
Well, these are voters. And if you're going to win in Iowa, you better start talking to voters. I don't think you can win an election in Iowa unless you want to go out there and meet the people, shake their hands, and they have a chance to get to meet you. And I'm here to try to win every vote. Let's face it, beating Trump is not going to be a cinch. He is clearly in the lead right now. And I have to go and work extra hard. That is why next week I will be hitting 28 counties. We are going to work Monday through Friday from morning until night, going to see as many people as possible. Because I'll guarantee one thing, nobody is going to work harder than I do. And in fact, I decided this is so much fun, I wanted everybody to share in my experience. So at the dinner table, I came up with this idea. In fact, my son was here when this whole inspiration hit me, and I said, why not a reality series so people can see what it's like to run for president? Because it's unlike anything you've ever seen or ever experienced. And by the way, it changes with the wind. It is amazing how things change. But we aired our first series last Tuesday on Newsmax, and then it goes straight to our sites. And when you go to perryjohnson.com/backstage or just perryjohnson.com, you can see it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And I think in the one Twitter thing, we had something like 1.3 million views today, one day.
Wow, one day. Well, there's a lot of things that I want to quick break down with you. First of all, you are outside of a Trump event with a lot of pretty solid followers for him. So who's come by so far? What are you guys talking about? Do you feel like you're swaying votes?
Well, I know we are. As a matter of fact, the people that we had that came in and saw us said, yep, you are the guy that we want. I could have asked them, why are you going to a Trump event? But I let them, they make their own decision. Let's face it, they go to a Trump event because they want to experience what it's really like. Some of them have never been to an event like this, and they said, why not? Because they've been going to the caucus year after year, so let's take advantage of that, and they wanted to see what was going on. And I'm here to go after my plan, 2 cents to save America.
I mean, speaking of 2 cents, I'm an Iowa native. My mom just got your book in the mail. What are people saying about the book?
They love it. You know, that was one of the greatest things they ever did, was to mail a book to all the caucus members. So I mailed out 105,000 books. And the difference between before I mailed the book out and after I mailed the book out, dramatic. Not only that, you see what happens in a race. In a race, in the beginning, no one knows you. You know, you come into Iowa, who is this guy? That's why I have Perry Who in the back, right? Nobody knows you. Then all of a sudden, little by little, the crowds grow. Then they get bigger and they get bigger. And pretty soon you're walking in and it seems like virtually everybody knows you, because that's how it is, particularly in a state where you have to go face to face all the time. And boy, is it fun. It is so much fun.
Well, one of the things I want to hit on really quick is that Vivek Ramaswamy did post about his interesting take on voters and how he wants to increase the voter age to 25 for some Americans. And so you had some pretty strong response to that. Do you care to elaborate?
He's nuts. The biggest focus right now we have to realize is that the Republicans have been ignoring the younger crowd for what, the last 25 years? We have to do just the opposite. How are you ever going to have people vote for you if you were going to take the right to vote? Could you imagine how many women would be voting for Vivek if he said, the women are not going to vote anymore, I'm going to take away their right to vote? Do you think he would ever have a chance of winning an election? How stupid can you be? I think that may be the nuttiest thing I've ever heard. Not only that, if somebody is, you know, at this age, they want to be involved in politics, and we want to get them involved in politics as early as possible. And I think the only way to do that is to start going out to the colleges, going out to the young people, addressing them, and getting them to see what this is all about. Because I think they all realize that inflation is hitting us all. And they also realize that this is a great country that's putting itself in peril with this ridiculous expenditure. I mean, even the people in the colleges, no matter what their social leanings, are going to understand that you can't be 32 trillion in debt, write a check for $900 billion in interest, and then say, it's okay, we're going to go and be 50 trillion in debt in 10 years because we don't care how much we spend. They're ruining the entire future of the young people, and the young people have to understand that the reason that we have all of these problems with inflation and everything else is because of the government.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here a second. You know, Vivek is a millennial running for government, and that's kind of his main platform. Why should people turn to you and say, hey, Perry, you're the one to represent us as millennials or Gen Zs?
Well, he's a millennial who's 37 who wants to cut out all the people under the age of 25. I'm a guy that has been living his whole life in this country, thinks it's the greatest country in the world, and wants everyone to participate in politics because I know if we get people involved, we're going to continue improving this country and continue to make this country the greatest country in the world. But I also have been the only guy that has spent his entire life bringing quality and efficiency to companies. Notice, I have a plan. I'm the only guy that actually has a plan and wrote a book about what to do. And the reason I'm the only guy is that I'm the only guy that's been doing it. It's easy to talk and to criticize and to say, okay, all these things are wrong, but you have to have a solution. And I have a solution. I have been doing all of this my whole life. I'm a guy that literally started with nothing. I'm a guy that was getting eviction notices in grad school because I couldn't pay my rent. And I'm a guy that has since become successful. I thought I was saying 70, it's now, I guess it's over 80 companies around the world. None of my companies have any debt. No company has ever gone bankrupt. I have no personal debt. Why? Because I watch what I spend, and I want the government to watch what it spends. And I also know that the key is that you have to take a look at what you're doing with the organization and make the organization more efficient, producing a better result with higher quality. And that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Okay, so I'm just going to play off of this education conversation, right? Because we were talking about education off camera for a second there. And one thing that's being discussed heavily right now is trade schools. And since we're talking about Vivek, you know, his whole thing is he wants to incentivize trade schools. What does that look like for you?
That's something we can agree upon too. I write about that in my book. Maybe you got that from my book. Because in my book, I talk about how we need to do something with the trade schools. In fact, here's a very interesting concept. A person goes to school for 4 years. They end up getting a degree in philosophy. They try to get a job. Maybe the job pays them $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And they may struggle to get that job, and they're very much in debt. On the other hand, I decide I'm going to be an electrician, carpenter, plumber. I go out there and become a tradesman. I'm going to be making over $100,000 a year. In roughly 3 or 4 years, I could have my own subcontracting firm. I could make $250,000 a year. And we have an acute shortage of tradesmen. Now, I have friends, in fact, one of my very good friends in college got a degree in accounting, and he decided he was going to be a carpenter because the carpenters were working overtime and he was making so much more than he would as an accountant. He then started a subcontracting firm and later became a developer. And now he owns one of the largest pieces of properties over there on the ocean in Florida. Why not? What about Bill Pulte? He seemed to do okay. The reality is that we have a situation right now where people often aren't paying attention to what they need to do to have a better life for themselves and their family. And let's pay attention to what they're getting out of the college. If you go to college, let's study something that enables you to have a better life for yourself and your family. And we have an acute dearth of tradesmen. I mean, it's a disaster where I am, and I desperately need people also in my business. So there are so many different things that people need and can do. And let's organize our entire effort so that we contribute to society and in the end benefit ourselves and our family. And that to me is key. So I love trades. I've been talking about that for the last few years, since I was running for governor.
Well, now let me loop back to why we're here today, which is us being right outside a Trump event trying to get Trump supporters for you. What are you telling Trump supporters to sway them? What do you think is the main message you need to get through to Trump supporters to bring them over to vote to you?
Well, there are two main messages. The first message is that we have inflation because the government spends too much money. And as you may know, I agree with most everything that Trump did, except he spent too much money. I also know that we had an election and he lost. Now, if he's going to run against Biden again, and Biden has this infrastructure which is much greater than it was before he ran, because he's the incumbent, Trump will end up losing again. And I want America to be a better place, a more secure place. And in the end, I know the only way this is going to happen is if we win over independent voters. There are about a dozen states that are critical to winning this election, and we have to win them. And we can complain about the fact that there are mass mailing ballots and everything else, but that's the way it is. And we have to adapt to it. And if we don't, we're going to lose another election. And I want to win. And it doesn't matter who gets nominated, I will be voting Republican. That I guarantee.
So you would endorse Trump if he ended
Of
up
course.
being the nominee?
Of course.
You would endorse Vivek if he became the nominee?
Any Republican is going to be better than Biden.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.